Marketplace is supported by Domo, the data experience platform innovator that puts data to work for everyone so they can multiply their impact on the business. More at domo.com.
On the program today, manufacturing, computer chips, and global trade. That last one, by the way, way more fun than it sounds. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Buyside from the Wall Street Journal, an independent commerce site designed to help consumers make smart decisions with their time and money. WSJ.com/Buyside.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Ryssdal. It is Thursday today, the 24th of August. Good as always to have you along, everybody. We begin today with a data point en route to an observation about a slice of this economy that has seen better days. We learned this morning, here's the data point, obviously, that orders for durable goods fell 5% in July, the biggest drop since the early days of the pandemic. Durable goods being big, expensive stuff that is supposed to last. Here, then, is the slice of the economy at issue. Manufacturing in this country has been in the dumps for a while. And if the durable goods order number this morning is any indication, it's going to be a while longer before it bounces back. This is a not unintended consequence of the Fed raising rates, right? Higher interest rates are supposed to cool demand and slow the economy. But as Marketplace's Justin Ho reports, there are some signs that manufacturers are adapting.
Argonaut Manufacturing Services in Carlsbad, California, makes pharmaceutical drugs and diagnostic tests. CEO Wayne Woodard and I are looking through a window into a sterile room where a machine is filling glass vials.
We use a lot of automation, as you can see. There's 2 different robots in there and a whole bunch of other mechanical parts moving the glass around and then filling them.
Argonaut manufactures products for clients, not to sell under its own name. Woodard says business was great early in the pandemic, when a lot of companies shifted to making COVID tests. But more recently, he says his clients have had to pivot back to what they were doing before the pandemic, at a time when interest rates have been rising and banks are more reluctant to make loans.
And they're just finding that pivot back, which is going to require additional capital, is getting harder to find.
And as Woodard's clients have struggled, so has his company. He's had to make layoffs, though he won't say how many. But he says there are plenty of reasons to believe that business will bounce back. He says COVID taught people that diagnostic tests can be pretty useful.
Now they start thinking about, what other tests could I take at home? Or what other tests could I go to my doctor and get a result very quickly?
So Woodard is expanding. Earlier this year, his company added a new facility. It also bought another automated filling machine that will boost its capacity fourfold.
It's those folks who make the investment in the toughest of times who reap the benefits when business is good again.
Manufacturer Lyman Munson is feeling upbeat about demand too. His firm S.L. Munson & Company makes metalworking tools in South Carolina, including diamond grinding wheels that are used to make disc brake pads for vehicles. Munson says demand for those tools stayed strong throughout the pandemic because a lot of people bought vehicles.
Every one of them is going to have 8 disc pads on it. And after some number of miles, they're going to need to be replaced.
Munson says before the pandemic, he had to compete with imports that were cheaper than his products. But all of the supply chain congestion during the pandemic taught many of his customers that working with foreign manufacturers can be really slow.
You need to have 6 months lead time for the people offshore to make the product and pack it up and ship it over here and get through the whole supply chain.
The Biden administration has been trying to incentivize manufacturers to rely less on certain Chinese exports, especially sophisticated technology, says Katie Russ, an economics professor at UC Davis.
So that we're sourcing more advanced technology goods from countries we see as friendly and what we call reshoring as well, which would be domestic sources.
The administration is pouring a lot of money into domestic sectors it sees as strategically important. Defense, clean energy, the semiconductor business.
There's a lot of monies that are appropriated already that have a lot of legs on them for these industries.
That's Chris Blench, co-founder of Mavericks Manufacturing Partners in Escondido, California.
And so we're trying to position ourselves so that we can continue to benefit from all those monies that are allocated to those projects.
Blench started the company a few months ago to manufacture components for submarines and aircraft carriers, parts for wind turbines and desalination plants, and tools for semiconductor manufacturing. He's showing me a grinder that preps steel plates for welding. Other than a few welding machines, the room it's in is mostly empty. But Blench says that'll change pretty soon.
Like the 3D printer will be over there, the welding robots will be over here in this corner. We'll be making those investments once we can afford it.
Blench says he's sure he'll be able to, because the products his company's set up to make are sophisticated and expensive.
We're not making toasters, we're not making furniture. We are fabricating products that are very difficult to make.
Which is exactly the kind of manufacturing the Biden administration has been trying to encourage. I'm Justin Ho for Marketplace.
Wall Street on this Thursday. Traders were most definitely not feeling the love. We will have the details when we do the numbers. You got 80% of any given market, you're in a pretty good position, at least short term, which explains a lot of the action around the chip maker NVIDIA. It announced blockbuster earnings yesterday, and as we covered earlier this week, it has become the breakout sensation of the AI boom, thanks to its advanced graphics processing units, GPUs, that are the key piece of hardware needed to train those complex AI models. 80% key, as I said a minute ago. That kind of concentration is great for NVIDIA and for its investors, but it's not all great, as Marketplace's Megan McCarty-Carino reports.
It's not just that the entire AI industry is so reliant on one chip company. It's that that company is so reliant on one manufacturer that actually makes the chips, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC.
There's a problem in a lot of sectors where there is a dominant provider.
Daryl West, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, says, "We've been here before."
The last few years have taught us how delicate our supply chain is. I mean, we've seen disruptions in a lot of different areas.
There were the toilet paper wars, the nurses wearing trash bags in lieu of PPE, and the computer chip shortage that made car shopping a competitive sport. Manufacturing processes have become both more specialized and geographically separated, says Ram Ganeshan, a business professor at the College of William and Mary.
It's sort of a division of labor, so to speak.
This can make production more efficient and easy to scale, and an increasingly global market mediated by the internet has created a winner-take-all dynamic in the business world, says Aswat Damodaran, a professor of finance at NYU.
I think it's the fact that there are fewer players in almost every business, so you worry more about any one of them getting into trouble.
You worry even more, he says, when that one is in Taiwan, where there are simmering geopolitical tensions with China. The U.S. is making investments, like the CHIPS and Science Act, to shore up domestic supply chains, but that could take years or even decades. I'm Megan McCarty-Carino for Marketplace.
Public schools in this country got a $122 billion shot in the arm back in 2021 when Congress passed and President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan. It was the biggest one-time infusion of federal money into public education ever, and districts have been using it to renovate HVAC systems and hire staff and expand summer school offerings. But one time means one time, and the money has to be spent by September of 2024. So schools are going to have to make some hard choices in the coming year about what they keep and what they cut. Marketplace's Stephanie Hughes has that one.
Summer school hasn't always equaled fun in the arithmetic of public education. I mean, who likes remedial reading and math lessons? Storm Lake Community School District in rural Iowa wanted to change that, so it used federal pandemic relief funds to expand summer school.
They can choose board games. They can choose Legos. They can choose computer science, cooking.
District Superintendent Stacy Cole says the number of students attending went from 60 to over 500. The programming costs the district $430,000 annually, and she's not sure what will happen once the federal funds run out.
if you have to pit that against, do we hire another 2 science teachers next year, or do we run half of the summer school? That's a big decision to make.
Lots of school leaders have big decisions to make as federal dollars expire, according to a survey out this week from the School Superintendents Association. More than half say they'll be forced to cut summer programming. They're also anticipating job cuts. Roland Toscano leads East Central Independent School District in San Antonio. He used federal money to hire tutors, classroom assistants, educators who could help kids with dyslexia. He's hoping the Texas legislature will step in with funds so he doesn't have to lay all those people off.
It's just stressful. It's disheartening. She's got a lot of restlessness about what's to come and how we're going to manage.
Other districts are pivoting, spending their last American Rescue Plan dollars on stuff instead of people. Curriculum, hardware, software, things they can use beyond the 2024 deadline. I'm Stephanie Hughes for Marketplace.
Coming up.
This is a business based on passion.
That is really the only way to do it. First, though, let's do the numbers. Ooh, the Wawas. Ooh. All right, here you go. Dow Industrial's off 373, 1 0.1%, ended at 34,099. NASDAQ off 257 points, almost 1 0.9% there. There you go. Closed at 13,463. The S&P 500 shed 59 points, 1 1/3%, finished at 43,76. I guess it's bad that I'm surprised when we get the Wawas, right? Boeing dropped nearly 5% today after the plane maker reported manufacturing flaws in its 737 MAX airliners and announced that deliveries would be delayed. Spirit AeroSystems, which supplied the problem parts, tumbled more than 12%. T-Mobile US shed 2 2/10%. Today, the telecommunications firm announced plans to cut 5,000 jobs. That's about 7% of its workforce as it tries to reduce costs in the face of rising competition. Bond prices down. Yield on the 10-year T-note ticked up 4.24% on the 10-year. You're listening to Marketplace.
The Marketplace Numbers segment is supported by Odoo, simple management software for all your business needs. Marketplace is supported by C3 AI. C3 Generative AI provides ChatGPT enterprise search that is verifiable, secure, and accurate across all enterprise data. Learn more at c3.ai. This is Enterprise AI. And by Ravello. Behind every successful software product is a world-class development team. Ravello helps growth-focused companies hire top-tier pre-vetted developers and scale engineering teams quickly and effortlessly. REVELO.com. And by the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, a nonpartisan organization dedicated to raising awareness and accelerating action on America's fiscal challenges to build a brighter economic future for the next generation. Learn more at pgpf.org.
Thanks for joining us for Marketplace here on WBEZ.
Hey, it's Steve Inskeep. That extra car that you're not really using, that car could be worth hundreds of dollars in support or more as a donation to this station.
Find out how at wbez.org/car.
WBEZ is supported by Bass, Berry & Sims Healthcare Law Practice for the caretakers and the change makers, providing transactional, regulatory, and compliance and investigative advice to providers across the country. More at bassberry.com. Donald Trump is set to turn himself into Georgia authorities later this afternoon. We'll bring you live coverage when that happens here on WBEZ. And stay with us for All Things Considered at 5 o'clock.
WBEZ is supported by Walter E. Smith Furniture and Design, a local family-owned company serving Chicago and celebrating Labor Day in their 10 showrooms. Information is available at smithwithane.com.
Chicago parents, as your students head back to school, tap into the latest news with Education This Week, a weekly newsletter from the education reporters at WBEZ and the Chicago Sun-Times. Sign up now at wbez.org/education news.
Lovers of live storytelling have a lot to look forward to this fall. Join WBEZ as we present special in-person events with Mortified and The Moth. Check out the full calendar of storytelling shows and more at wbez.org/events.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Ryssdal. Consumer spending we talk about all the time on this program. In case I haven't mentioned it lately, spending by or on behalf of us accounts for 70% or so of all economic activity in this country. What we don't talk about all that much is the way consumers spend their money and what they are spending it on and where, which I mention because some big names in retail have been telling us how they're doing, and maybe it's not so great. Macy's actually lost money in the April to June quarter. Dick's Sporting Goods also disappointed Wall Street and downgraded its forecast for the rest of the year. Kohl's did better than analysts expected, but still not good. All of which is a sign, as Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman reports, that American consumers seem to be changing direction a bit.
First big thing that's happening in the retail economy, consumers are shifting from buying stuff to spending on experiences. Where we were buying exercise bikes and lawn furniture to hunker down at home, now we want to travel, eat out, see concerts. And, says Mark Cohen at Columbia Business School,
the retail companies that feasted on the boom that COVID brought to them because of the change in lifestyle that people went through are now exhibiting a hangover.
Cohen says that shift is hurting retailers like Dick's Sporting Goods and Home Depot. Meanwhile, inflation and recession warnings keep making the headlines, says Chris Jackson at public opinion firm Ipsos. The firm's most recent survey finds
60% of American consumers say they feel less comfortable with their ability to make a big-ticket purchase versus 6 months ago.
So the bottom line for consumer spending, says Samir Samana at Wells Fargo Investment Institute,
you moved from necessities and goods to necessities and experiences. The tricky part now is those necessities continue to climb in cost. Not only that, but because of what interest rates are doing, interest expenses are taking up a bigger and bigger chunk of household budgets.
And that, in turn, is driving a shift by consumers away from discretionary spending. All these countervailing forces make the post-pandemic U.S. consumer very hard to predict, says Chris Jackson.
People are just like, we've suffered for the last 3 years. I want to do something that feels good. If it involves spending $2,000 to fly to Indianapolis to see Taylor Swift, fine. But then they're going to, buy the generic toilet paper instead of the name brand one to maybe balance it out. I don't know.
Most economists predict U.S. consumer spending will slow in coming months. But exactly how that'll play out is anybody's guess. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
We know that women get more bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and PhDs than men do. Women earn almost half of the MBAs out there, too. And yet, C-suites up and down this economy are dominated by men. One thought on how to right that wrong? Poker. Erin Leiden is the president of Poker Power, which wants to teach 1 million women and girls around the world how to play the game, and in the doing, how to learn some lessons of life. Erin, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Kai. Good to be here.
So you want to teach 1 million girls and women to play poker. First of all, why?
It's the game of poker, but it's really the game of life. And through playing this game, you will learn how to problem solve with imperfect information. You'll learn how to get more comfortable taking risk. You'll learn how to bet and bluff. And these are all really key leadership skills, no matter where you are in your career, or if you're just getting ready to head off to college and you haven't even stepped on the ladder yet.
We should say here, you have worked on Wall Street. You've been sort of in that arena, as it were, and I imagine that's kind of why you are as involved and passionate about this as you are.
That is true. I started my finance career at JP Morgan, and that was 1999. So that's when I say, pay was secret and pregnancy was hidden. And so for more than 20 years now, I have been working on ways to help empower women, especially around equal pay. And what I like to say is play poker. And I know it sounds crazy, but truly it is the most impactful personal thing that you can do for yourself. And it has nothing to do with, the gambling and, transacting real money, because we don't do any of that at Poker Power. And it's all around developing the skills and strategies.
Do we know that teaching people, women and girls specifically, but do we know that teaching people to play Texas Hold'em or whatever actually inculcates these skills in them?
There's quite a bit of research with financial firms in particular where poker is part of the culture of a firm. We know that there actually was an article that the Fed put out around, you will be a better trader if you learn to think like a poker player. What Poker Power is doing, because we also would like to have some real hard data around this, is we are running a number of studies with some of the top universities right now and follow a cohort through our program.
How do you convince, obviously you want to start people within reason as young as possible so that they can develop these skills and thus improve those skills over time. Have you had to have conversations with parents about, here, I don't want my 14-year-old learning how to play poker? Or is that just not a thing?
Well, it definitely is a thing. And what I always ask, my first question is, would you let your son play? Because if he goes to summer camp, I guarantee he's playing it. Stereotypically, poker is a boys' club. It's booze, it's betting, it's the smoky basement. It's all the places that women don't feel comfortable. And that's what we're trying to shift. So yes, we've certainly had moms and dads who aren't too keen on this, but I will tell you, we have taught thousands of girls, and we actually have a very successful program in Kenya. We're teaching 5,000 high school and university girls to play poker.
So once you get the million, which is your target, then what? 5 million, 10 million, right? Might as well.
Yeah, there's no end. And the million was put out there just as, everybody needs a North Star that they're shooting towards. But we want half the world, and half the world is women. So we want half the world playing poker.
What's your favorite game?
Well, we only teach Texas Hold'em.
Yeah, but what about you though, right? Texas Hold'em is Texas Hold'em, but what about you? Do you play?
Oh, I play a lot. Yeah. And it's funny because I was not a poker player, and I was very trepidatious to run this company because I didn't know how to play. And I actually realized about a year in that I was truly the target market. This is a game that it surrounded me when I was on Wall Street, and I never took my seat, and I never asked if I could take my seat. And now that I play, I am personally benefiting from it, but I'm also sharing the experience with all these new women who never saw themselves at a poker table.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was gonna wrap it up, but there is one more thing that you said that prompts me to ask this question. So you get the girls in the game, you get the women in the game, and they learn the skills in the game, but it's asking for a seat at the table. That's the first challenge, right?
That's exactly the key to all of this, is you want to see where you want to be, and we all know we have to see it to be it, and then you have to pull out the seat. And at Poker Power, we are highly inclusive to anyone who wants to learn with us. And so there are no barriers to taking your seat, which is so critical to getting what you want out of life.
Erin Lawton, she's the president of Poker Power. Erin, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Guy.
This final note on the way out today, which will appeal largely to those attuned to the politics of this economy, which, yes, me. Axios broke the story today that the Biden administration wants to be able to comment sooner on releases of economic data. As it stands now, by long-standing rule, and I'm talking the Nixon administration long-standing, officials in the executive branch are not allowed to comment on economic data, think gross domestic product or inflation, or more particularly, the monthly unemployment report. They are not allowed to comment on it until an hour after its release. The current White House says that is just not realistic in today's information environment and wants to trim the delay to half an hour. The Trump administration tried to nix the entire delay, gave up in the face of strong opposition. You might recall the then president tweeted out a hint of a strong May 2018 jobs report more than an hour before it came out.
Marketplace is supported by C3 AI. C3 Generative AI provides ChatGPT enterprise search that is verifiable, secure, and accurate across all enterprise data. C3.ai. This is Enterprise AI.
All right, we're out of here. First, though, your moment of economic context. Just a quickie in case you saw news this morning that the American economy actually added fewer jobs over the past year than we had thought. Yes, true, but every year the Labor Department goes back over its data to get us the truest possible measure of employment in this economy. And this morning's release of the revision showed about 306,000 actually, fewer jobs gained than we'd thought. Here, though, comes your context. Even with all the revisions, all in, there were 2.8 million new jobs created in the United States in the past year. Our immediate production team includes Brian Allison, Jake Cherry, Jason Dueller, Drew Jostad, Gary O'Keefe, Jeff Peters, Charlton Thorpe, Juan Carlos Dorado, and Becca Weinman. I'm Kai Ryssdal. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is 8 p.m.